My topic is just about nerd culture in general, the stereotypes, and do they still exist today? For example, the stereotypical nerd or geek is usually depicted as being smart, reading comic books, playing video games, and being antisocial. I feel it sort of changed over the years, possibly due to all the comic book films popularized in culture. Now, if you
I
go to, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, yeah. No. Keep going, keep going,
Alright,
keep going.
but
Sorry to cut you off.
if you go to a convention, it's not just a room full of geeks and nerds dressed up in their cosplay outfits or looking for other people to LARP with. You have everyday normal people attending them for the chance to meet one of their favorite celebrities, and now it seems like it's the popular thing to like these Avenger movies or Batman movies. Although I still don't see too many people playing tabletop games, but I would like to hear your all's opinion as well.
One of the things I noticed, oh, sorry, one of the things that I noticed there recently, but it got totally overshadowed, is you know
Yes,
the film The Interview? Have you
yes,
all seen it or whatever?
I
Have you?
haven't.
Yeah, okay. So in the film The Interview, Seth Rogen is the like smarter part of the pair, and James Franco is the complete idiot. Complete idiot, pretty face. And part of his being an idiot is he's always dropping completely out of place, awkward Lord of the Rings references in reference to we're like Sam and Frodo going to Mordor when they're talking about going to North Korea, and he just continues doing it for the entire film, like dropping these really badly not like don't match up properly references. Now he's supposed to be the
right,
idiot in the pair, right? This shows how far nerd culture has come, because only like 10 years ago, you wouldn't have the pretty boy idiot in the pair be the one dropping the Lord of the Rings references, right? The like 15 years, when did the first Lord of the Rings film come out? Like those books
Yes,
were,
in high school, yeah.
yeah, those films were for nerds, or those books were for, like, you had to be super nerdy to catch Lord of the Rings references in casual
right.
conversation, you know? Like, I remember there was the terrible remake of the Italian Job. Was
Yeah,
it the
I
Italian
think
Job?
so.
And yeah, and was it Seth Green playing the hacker guy? And he hacked the vault, and when the vault doors were opening, or he said "Bell lock," and the other characters just looked at him blankly, and that was kind of your cue, your key that Seth Green's character is a total. I hope it was Seth Green. It was, yeah. He's the total nerd. You know, this was your thing, that like he's dropping these references no one can get because he's so smart. And then like 10 years later, you have like James Franco dropping the Lord of the Rings references because he's so dumb. Like, yeah, there is a total like stuff. Nerd culture has become totally just a part of day-to-day life. Like, part of Seth Rogen's character in the interview is that he doesn't he has the Lord of the Rings references have to be explained to him because he's a smart person that hasn't watched
Right,
those dumbass films,
right.
you
So
know.
it's sort of
And
like
I
the
just thought
roles
that
kind
was,
of reversed
That's
themselves.
funny.
yeah. And like, obviously you could still have a person dropping a super obscure Lord of the Rings reference and you like have an indication that they're nerdy, but Lord of the Rings being such a cultural standard touchstone that you would never use it nowadays as an indicator that this person is a nerd. I mean, you might use it if you knew nothing about anything, but nowadays you'd be more likely to drop a, like, if you an obscure, Warcraft reference or
Right.
something, you know.
One thing I've noticed is a lot of people wanting to defend their nerdiness as like or geekiness, however you want to word it, as like a badge of honor. How there is the whole like you're not one of a real nerds because they're like the popular cool type that like the dumb ones, and all of a sudden they're interacting with those of us like me who were always made fun of for liking Star Wars and playing video games my whole life. It was like I was that weird girl that played games. Like, who is she? She's a weirdo. Why is she playing Pokemon? Why does she have a Pokemon thing? What's Star Wars? Star Wars is stupid. And so now it's like just commonplace. Nobody really has to hide they like it. But at the same time, some people are like, I mean, I think it's cool that all of a sudden I'll feel like way more popular than I've ever been, which is really funny because I've always been a total dork. But it's a lot of it is the whole badge of honor. It's like the nerds who have always been nerdy, they're still wanting that separation there. But the problem is, it's like, okay, well, used to, we got made fun of for this. Why are we making fun of the new nerds for liking what we like? And I think that's a big thing. But I can, at the same time, I can understand. I can see both sides of the problem, or not necessarily problem, of the equation. And I think that's just a big issue still that's been going on, and like the fake geek girl crap, which I have never been accused of being. I'm still not sure what to think there.
What you said kind of reminds me of, for example, say if somebody goes and watches the new Batman movie or whatever the newest comic book movie is out, and then they really get into it, they fall in love with the movie, they go start reading the comics, they start if it's Batman, they start reading the Batman comics, and then they start reading comics about Catwoman or Batgirl and some of these spin-off comics, and then they really get into just like all these nerdy things because of the movie. Somebody that's been into all this stuff for the past decade or two is going to look at them like they don't belong. Sort of like how they used to be looked at whenever they were growing up with the same stuff.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that all of a sudden this is their turf and they've never had their own turf before. And so then somebody who's always been able to go anywhere they want and they're cool no matter what, all of a sudden they're on the nerd turf. And I think it's more of a fear of being cut out and it being taken from the others.
No, that's true. Like it's like it used to be, if you met someone who was into the same nerdy thing as you, you'd be like, "Oh my god, you know what that thing is?" And then you'd become instant friends and have a huge big conversation about the nerdy thing. But nowadays you can't guarantee that. You might meet this like guy who's like totally into whatever, and then you just know he might still be too cool to talk to you. Like just the fact that he likes superheroes is no guarantee that he wants to like talk to you or hang out with you. So that's probably a lot where the resentment, and I even do think it's kind of a bit weird with. I don't think it's in any danger yet, but like, you know, when you see all the pictures of the people doing the cosplay, and you get these beautiful people with like muscly bodies doing cosplay as beautiful muscly people, and you're like, that must be pretty hard on the like slightly overweight guy that wanted to go dressed as Conan the Barbarian. Like, you know, like, it's like, oh, I was, you know, normally when I was going to this thing, you know, I didn't have to bump into the huge, big, muscly guy who was doing the thing I was doing, but way better. You know, so that's probably feeding into some of the insecurities, like, you know.
Yeah.
I would say.
Sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That does make sense.
And then it could be the other way as well. Say there's a slightly out of shape woman that wants to go as Layla or Wonder Woman, and then she shows up in her costume, but then there's 20 or 30 other women that look like they could be on any model agency picture, and then they're dressed up. And then some of them may be into the comics and stuff, or into cosplay, or they could just be paid to go represent a certain panel or something. So then,
yeah, and if you're, I don't want to use the phrase real nerd, but part of it is a certain a lack of the lack of social skills thing that might, like, accusing people of being fake nerds is probably a direct symptom of like a lack of social. Like, if you had more social skills, you wouldn't be accusing people of being fake whatever's. You'd find a way to internalize it and then later get over it, you know?
Because then it turns out it's not really the fact that you like Star Wars and gaming and cosplay that people don't like you. It's just because you just don't know how to socialize. I mean, I know I'm going to get a whole lot of crap for saying that, but
No, but some
Yeah.
of it
Well,
must be that.
I was
you know?
talking to
That-
Simon
is.
earlier about
Yeah.
this, and then a huge part of the stereotypical nerd is the antisocialness, to where they're awkward in communicating, and anytime they're portrayed on TV or something, they're like in the corner sitting by themselves or something, while the rest of the room is like having fun. And then, but these conventions, like Comic-Con, Gamescom, stuff like that, I look at them as places where these people that if they are into nerdy stuff and they do have those antisocial problems, then they can look at it as a way of going somewhere where maybe half of the people there also have the same antisocial problem that they do. Yeah,
They can be
exactly.
antisocial
So
together.
it's like they can feel a little bit more comfortable because they're
But
not
that-
walking into a room full of people that are just going to make fun of them for not being able to carry on a conversation or something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like all of a sudden when a thing becomes popular, it's not a special club anymore. Like you took the one thing they had away or whatever. Not that I
Yeah.
have any sympathy for that.
Well said. That is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Michael, I would like to
yeah.
ask you, because you come off as into nerdy stuff and I would like to know what your first sort of introduction into the nerd community was.
Well, the very, very first. Milton Bradley came out with 2 games when I was young, Space Crusade and Hero Quest. So they would have been the very first butting up into the world of 40k. Actually, yeah, Space Crusade was my poison of choice, even though it wasn't a great game. Like I wouldn't play it now, and I would never defend it as a game. But it was my gateway drug into the whole, like a Games Workshop world, and painting little. I have painted so many little tiny figures, and then I moved from there to the roleplay games, and then I moved from the roleplay. Well, I guess there's nowhere to move once you're in the roleplay games. But I do more. I have a broader interest in nerdy stuff. I didn't start really reading comic books till I arrived in the States, and then I got like way into it was probably to do with the excellent graphic novel section at the library here, there was a nerdy group at the university in the town where I went, and that was a lot of meeting nerdy people for the first time and going, oh wow, you're into the same stuff too, blah blah blah. And but I spent most of my high school years, you would call them, like basically locked in my bedroom painting little tiny figures.
Right.
That's pretty much how I spent high school, only I was playing a video game
Alright,
instead.
what about you, Simon? He froze up again. You keep freezing up,
In
Simon.
and out.
Oh, he's moving.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Am I good
Yeah.
now? Am I
You're good.
together? Okay. Because my audio kept going in and out, I'm not sure exactly
Alright.
what you asked me, but I have a question for all of you.
Okay.
Have you met anyone who hasn't seen Lord of the Rings yet?
Probably. If I have, it's not really come up in conversation of, have you seen Lord of the Rings?
That's not really an
Have you seen Lord of the
everyday
Rings?
topic when I speak to somebody.
I was just curious.
I mean, I'm always shocked when I meet somebody who hasn't seen Star Wars because I freaking love Star Wars.
Here
I
on
mean,
the
I'm on a
island.
stormtrooper pillow right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. I can see in the background. Here on the island of Martha's Vineyard, there seems to be a less nerdy stuff than I would. Sometimes I am shocked and appalled. I'll meet a man in his 20s, and try as I try to explain what it is I do when it comes up. I say, oh, I make like swords, like do you know the game Final Fantasy VII? And he just stared at me blankly, and then proudly announced that he doesn't play video games. I like to fish. And you're like, what the hell? Who the hell are you? What the... Like, I was... Here in the States was the first time I'd ever met young men who didn't play a lot of video games. It was like, how do you exist? I wasn't aware that this could happen. In Ireland, the rate of PlayStation ownership was in the 90s. It was only higher in Japan. Like, everyone, like, I grew up with had a PlayStation and talked about a PlayStation. Like, when Final Fantasy VII came out, that was just like a huge cultural touchstone, and everyone, like how to breed a golden chocobo was like the thing in the high school. So, no, I don't know have I met anyone who hasn't seen Lord of the Rings, but I'm here on an island. I should ask people for reference, because I'm sure if I was going to find someone who hasn't seen Lord of the Rings anywhere, it would be here on the island of Martha's Vineyard. They're all growing organic kale out of acoustic guitars, not so much so with the video games.
Sounds like the redneck town I grew up in.
Redneck hippie town.
Yeah, these were definitely not hippies.
Yeah, the way that I sort of take Simon's question is how the Lord of the Rings is, whenever like the Hobbits came out, or the Hobbit movies came out, they were one of the most popular movies of the year. So it's like, for someone, whereas before, to ask someone if they had seen a nerdy movie or read a nerdy comic book, that would be sort of, they would be in the minority if they would have seen the movie or read it. But now it's such a cultural phenomenon that you're sort of in the minority if you haven't seen it. And I think that's kind of what he was referring to.
Yeah, so I view the guys I meet here who don't play video games as aberrations. I still don't view them as normal. That they like, it's like, what do you do? Well, I mean, I know you fish, but what do you do at night? And they watch TV and do other dad-like activities. But like, they're young men. Young men need video games.
And
young women too.
And then with video games, and one thing that I heard, it was another podcast that I listened to, they were talking about how right now all the people that are in charge of the government and in Congress, they're used to, like whenever they were in their younger days and then they had their little kid, and their only knowledge of video games was their little kid sitting playing Mario on the original Nintendo or the Super Nintendo. And that's their thoughts on video games. So whenever they hear about somebody killing a hooker to get their money back in Grand Theft Auto, it completely blows their mind. So like, that's their thoughts on video games. They picture their little kid playing a game like that. They don't know like the vast sea of video games that we have now.
I'm just imagining Mario killing a hooker right now.
But people now have grown up playing video games. So like, they're now starting to get into Congress and like all these different places, because they're at the age to where they're going to be the people that are running America. So they're already used to like all the video games and the current technology and stuff. So it's not going to be like the thing that people look down on, like how people in the news or something, whenever they talk about video games, they act like they're clueless when it comes to it. And pretty soon it's going to be the people that grew up playing these video games that are running the country.
Oh, the number of arguments I had with teachers who told me video games rot your mind. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about, woman.
In the same way, it's like say somebody that directed like a Star Wars movie, or they made the sequel to a certain game or a certain movie. Whenever a movie's being remade now, or a video game's getting another sequel or something, it's being made by someone that grew up reading the comic about that, or they grew up watching that TV show or playing that game, so they understand what it's supposed to be about. So whenever they make it, it's being made by a fan. It's not being made by somebody that's just looking for money. It's being made by someone who actually has a passion for it. No, yeah.
Well, in theory, I mean, you'd always be able to find someone who doesn't. Yeah, but yeah, that would be good, and it would be nice to have the regular media understand video games. That would be good. That would be nice. It'd be less embarrassing. Although I wonder, like in a kind of dysfunctional way, will you miss the stories of the funny stories of people totally not understanding what the hell it is they're talking about? I can't give an example. Like there was one of the mass shootings, and then they blamed Mass Effect for the mass shooting. Yeah, I can't remember which of your mass shootings that you have in this country very often, but they found out that he'd liked Mass Effect on Facebook, like a video game about spreading peace throughout the universe, or talking to people and negotiating. It's like, oh, that's the thing that caused the mass shooting right there, Mass Effect. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's it right there.
I don't know, in a weird dysfunctional way, I'll miss stuff like that. Like the people not understanding. Well, I guess there'll be some new thing that they won't understand. You'd like to think that the current generation will be aware to Google the thing before you start talking about it. Just Google it. It takes 5 minutes, and then you won't look like an idiot.
Based on the patrons I deal with at work every day, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it did. Because once you look... But you might incentivize it. You might go, if you say something that makes you look like an idiot, it will go on the internet, and it will stay there forever. They won't remember the 6 years of brilliant investigative journalism. They will remember the time you referred to Donkey Kong as whatever,
That's almost how...
Yeah.
Like, whenever I envision any news reporter now, and they're talking about something, like... a little off topic, but around this past Halloween, I guess, there was a news reporter at a pumpkin throwing contest where people built catapults to throw pumpkins across some type of field, and she was in current shock and awe about how far the pumpkins were being thrown. And I'm just thinking, you're on live TV talking about how shocked you are this wooden catapult can throw a pumpkin. Like, you should...
Yeah, that's the only thing you know about that woman. You don't know any of the other work she's done. All you know is she's the lady that doesn't understand how catapults work.
I was watching some stupid... I was bored one day and I was watching QVC so I could laugh at the people that were presenting things. Because I do that sometimes out of boredom. And I was in high school and they were showing some Harry Potter watches or something. And I was like, oh, Harry Potter, I want to see what they have. And they didn't know how to pronounce the characters, yet they were selling the products. And they started calling Hagrid. They said, oh, that's his name. What's his name? Yeah. That's Hagrid.
It's the...
And then they showed, I think, Buckbeak or somebody like that, or Fox the Phoenix. Oh, we saw him being born! No, you didn't. You saw a dragon in the first movie. You did not see this character in the first movie.
Me of the problem when people say they love playing as the green-suited hero named Zelda. When it's should be very widespread that the princess is Zelda and the hero is Link.
Yeah.
Well, you should know that if you're going around claiming you're a fan of it.
Yeah. If you don't know a thing about it and you say, hey, I don't know a thing about it.
It's called Zelda.
I will have way more respect for them for that than to just say, oh yeah, I love Zelda. Ooh. With my sword and I'm being Zelda.
Yes.
Obviously, islands are sort of a closed-in area. Do you ever get seen out in public, whether you're doing some shopping or just traveling somewhere? Do you ever randomly get stopped and be like, oh, hey, there's that guy that was on TV, or there's that guy with the popular YouTube channel?
Yeah, well, not so much the YouTube channel because whatever the age range of people who would recognize me from YouTube. Not very outspoken and not on the island. Occasionally I'll talk to a young person and it'll transpire that, yeah, I've watched all your YouTube videos, but they generally don't bring it up. But yes, some guy will approach me loudly with his baseball cap and go, "Hey, I love your show," and I'll go, "Oh, thank you, thanks." And then they sometimes try to make small talk, which is always terribly awkward. I find one of the good things about being in America is not knowing any of the cultural norms or not being able to like figure out what the hell the person is talking about is put down to me being a wacky foreigner. Whereas in fact, a lot of it's just that I don't know a lot of human norms. It's just like even in Ireland, people would find me odd, you know? Like, you know, they talk to me about sports or the way people behave, and it's just like, why? Why do people do that? You know, like, I don't understand. Or the sports one is especially liberating, is not having, like in Ireland, you know, like someone asks you about something that happened with the sports there lately, and you kind of go, oh, I don't really, not so much into the sports ball, and they look at you like you have 5 heads. But over here, they seem to be more forgiving of the Irish guy not caring about baseball or basketball or American football, usually, I think is the one. It's
Come
like,
to the
oh...
South, it'll be completely different.
Yeah, but could I not still get away with it being like,
No.
oh, he's the wacky foreigner. He just doesn't understand how
We'd probably
sports
still
are
get
great.
away with that, but we'd also
Yeah.
say, bless your heart, you're a wacky foreigner. You don't know much about this, do you?
Yeah, but they don't say that out loud here, but that's obviously what they're thinking. You know, I just go, oh, I don't really follow sports, and then it ends. But then, you know, you get fellow dads coming up to you going, having kids, isn't it great? And you're like, oh, yeah, I guess so. And, like, it's obvious that there's some sort of social, little ritual thing going on there that I'm totally missing. Like, they always seem a little bit deflated that I don't follow it up with the next part, whatever the fuck that's supposed to be. Yeah. I don't know. Like, what do you do when a fellow dad approaches you at a soccer game and goes, blah, 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 blah? And you're like, oh, I don't, what, yeah, yes, well, yeah. You know, I just don't know how to behave.
It's improv. You always yes and everything.
Yeah, it's like, what was the question? Do people recognize me? Yes, they do. But the youngish people who would recognize me from YouTube, who I probably like want to choke them because they're young people, and most young people I want to strangle. But we'd have more interests in common. Like if they were like, oh, such and such a thing. Whereas, like, I don't have a lot of the interests in common with the friendly dads that come up to me at soccer practice kind of thing.
Have you ever gotten any awkward feedback from somebody whenever you try to explain to them what exactly you do for a living?
Oh, just a mate. Like, yes, in Ireland, because the feedback here in America is actually better because you guys appreciate crazy people. Like, you really like your crazy people. You're like, oh, look, crazy person. But in Ireland, it'd be like, you know, a lot of times it's like, sure, who the hell would be buying them? And I was like, well, people want them. Why? Why would they want them? And it'd be kind of like, you know, that it's not, maybe they're not analyzing, but you're implying that, like, you know, my things don't have a monetary value. And you're like, well, they're stupid, but they're clearly well made. Can you stop asking me why the hell anyone would want to buy one? And in here as well, you sometimes get like a more genteel person, somebody who maybe like wears sandals all the time, who gets very worried. They're like, what do they do with them when they buy them? I was like, oh, I don't know. It's like, what do you mean you don't know? What do they do with them when they buy them? And it's like, well, I guess they hang them on a wall or something. I don't know. I don't really care. Like as if like in the world of dangerous things, big giant swords are. You know, like I don't like the chances of being able to do damage with one of my things. Like if anybody who wanted to go on a rampage used one of my big giant swords instead of using what they normally use, the world would be a lot safer.
It would end up getting completely worn out within just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, the headline would read, "Lunatic injures self in parking lot."
Yeah, especially if it was the giant X that you recently made.
I'm just imagining them like throwing their back out, trying to do something with it. Be like, oh!
Almost instantly.
What are some sort of questions that you get a lot that kind of either infuriates you or just annoys you that you get asked so many times?
Well, there's a thing that used to annoy me, but I've learned to let it wash over me. Is on the swords are gigantically heavy and ill balanced and stuff. It's the disconnect that some of my fans have with reality, of like, oh, you're not using it properly because in the video game the guy holds it like this. If you held it like the way the guy in the video game holds it, and even some of my customers are like, like, oh, I want to train every day, I want to use it. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not going to be able to use it. And, it's not like, I still sell it to them. And like, if someone wants to buy one of my swords and is genuinely able to use one of my big giant swords to do lots of damage, I want to see that YouTube video. That's all. That would be awesome. But just based, they're like, oh, like I've done lots of kendo or whatever. And you're like, no, this is like... I don't know what sport this would be equivalent to. Is there some sport where you kill yourself? It's like that.
Sorry.
Oh, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I do like YouTube videos for Zelda Universe each week, and sometimes I get some really interesting feedback that's not always nice, and something that usually just makes me laugh. Have you ever got, like, my favorite to this day is still "Her face makes me angry." And so I was just wondering what kind of like feedback have you gotten that have just made you just like, oh my gosh, what? That's just kind of out there, or just weird, or trying to be mean and just failed because it's just funny.
I can't think, like I don't pay a lot of attention to the mean stuff, and I think some of it is, like you said, it's funny as opposed to generally the big, long, multi-paragraph comments that tell me how to use the sword properly, they're the ones that, like, vaguely infuriate me. Oh, are the guys who say they bought the same sword off Amazon for $20. I bought this sword off Amazon for $20, and it broke instantly. And then they're the only ones that will get a rise out of me and make me go, you did not buy one iMed off Amazon for $20, guy. But, like, in terms of my physical appearance, like, there's loads of people who, I don't notice them as much, but yeah, there have been people who are like, oh, his beard is gross, or whatever, which is, that's fine if you think my beard is gross. Somebody linked me the one about there was the thing there recently about how beards have fecal matter in them.
Oh, I remember that.
And my response was, I know, because I put it there.
Nicely done.
I have 2 more questions, and then I'll leave it to Amanda and Simon to wrap up. But one of the questions is, on Facebook, I've seen that you have a sort of contest going on people that can wield unwieldy objects to smash things. Would you like to explain to the viewers watching what the contest is about and how they could enter?
So, I have a line of little swords going, like 3D printed ones, and we have a bunch of prototypes, and one of the prototypes is a purple copy of the one from the show called Cerberus, and we don't offer the purple one in the shop, so currently it's the only purple one on the planet, and it was like, oh, why not, this will be fun. So if you destroy, you use an unwieldy implement to inefficiently destroy stuff, and while yelling out, I want the purple Cerberus, I was going to make a master cut, maybe. I think that's how it's going to work out. I'm going to mash all the videos together, and then get the public at large to pick out which is the best one. Or if that doesn't work, just pick out one myself. And whoever can make the best video of themselves using something stupid to destroy something inefficiently. It can be effectively destroyed, like it can be a good job, but it just has to be obvious that it wasn't the best choice of implement. Like if you use a deck chair to smash a microwave or whatever, that kind of thing is what I'm looking for. I don't want any video of a guy with a katana slicing a water bottle. No one cares. No one cares if you can slice a water bottle with a katana. That's the nature of my competition. I don't know, there's like 2 weeks left on it if you want to enter a video of yourself smashing something in a stupid manner.
And then my second question is, how often, if ever, do you get people that seem 100% legitimately wanting to buy something from you, but they just don't always come through. Whether they give you the down payment to start making it, but then they just don't seem interested after that.
Oh, I mean, it happens. I mean, it's not super often, but it does happen. And, you know, like, you get emails of guys who are like, oh, I really, really want this, and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, they just disappear for whatever reason. The internet is a strange place, full of people who want to waste your time, or just send you pictures of themselves, or just lonely people who want someone to talk to. I calculated once that, like, of all the emails I get, the response rate is like 0.05% of emails I receive result in somebody paying me for a sword.
Is there anything that you would like to say to any of the people that are watching?
Go watch the show, I guess. Watch it on a TV. Discovery Channel has no interest in renewing me for a second season if you go download it illegally. That doesn't work.
Alright. Well, thank you again for coming on. And,
Thank you. It was great talking to you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Alright. Bye.
Bye-bye.